You know, sometimes life gets loud. The world pulls us in 100 different directions, and it's easy to forget the little things that make us feel alive. But then there's music. And when you really listen, when you let it touch you, it feels like someone out there understands you without needing a single word. Tonight, I want to talk to you about something simple, something honest, a thought that comes straight from the heart. I think you love this music. And I don't just mean the melody or the beat. I'm talking about the way it wraps around your soul, the way it reminds you that you're still here, still feeling, still capable of love, deep, breathtaking love. So let's take a moment together, breathe, listen, and remember what it feels like to be human, to be connected, to be moved. Because I think you really do love this music, and maybe it loves you back. You know, there's something quietly beautiful about the way music finds you. Not in some dramatic, world shaking moment, but in the soft spaces between breaths, in the tiny pauses of your day where you don't even realize your heart is reaching for something gentle, something familiar, something that reminds you of who you are. When I say, I think you love this music, I'm not guessing. It's the kind of certainty that comes from watching the way your eyes soften when a melody drifts in, or the way your shoulders loosen as if the whole weight of the world decides, just for a moment, it can step aside and let you breathe again. I think you love this music because it meets you where you are. It doesn't ask you to pretend. It doesn't ask you to be stronger than you feel. It doesn't judge the days you're tired, the nights you're quiet, the moments where your thoughts get heavy and your soul feels too full. This music is like a hand reaching out in the dark, not to pull you forward or push you somewhere new, but simply to let you know you're not walking alone. It's gentle, it's patient, it's here, the same way you're here, and that connection, however invisible, is real. And maybe part of the reason the music reaches you so deeply is because it speaks a language your heart already knows. Even before you can put it into words, even before you try to explain, the melody has already understood you. It understands the way you've learned to carry things quietly. It understands the stories you don't always tell. It understands the hope you're trying to grow, even on the days when it feels like nothing is blooming. Maybe that's why you love this music. It reminds you that someone, somewhere, understands without needing explanations. Sometimes you hear a note and it's like time pauses, not in a dramatic movie way, but in this soft, almost invisible stillness where everything feels clearer. In that stillness, you remember things you thought you forgot. The first time you felt truly seen, the first time you believed that love could be gentle, the first time you realized that even broken pieces can reflect light. Music holds those memories for you, it keeps them safe. And when you need them again, it plays them back, not to make you nostalgic, but to remind you of your strength, your softness, your ability to feel so deeply. And maybe you don't always talk about how much you feel. Maybe you've learned to stay quiet because the world can be loud, and people sometimes fail to notice the quiet ones. But music notices. It listens to the things you don't say. When you lean into a song, it hears the truth in your silence. It understands the way your heart beats when you're trying to stay calm. It understands the way your breath trembles when life gets overwhelming. It understands you in a way that doesn't need words. And that kind of understanding is rare, precious, something you hold close without even meaning to. And I think that's why when I look at you listening, truly listening, I can feel something warm around you. It's like love, but not the dramatic kind people often describe. It's a soft love, a quiet love, the kind that doesn't demand attention. The music brings out that softness in you, the version of you that lets the world in gently, slowly, honestly. It's the version of you that isn't trying to be perfect, isn't trying to prove anything, isn't trying to outrun anything. It's just you. And this music, it loves you for exactly that. When you let the sound sink in, I can almost see the shift in your heartbeat, almost like your soul exhales. You allow yourself to feel again, not just the joy or the excitement, but the vulnerability too, the parts you sometimes try to protect. And that's beautiful. There's power in letting yourself feel, there's courage in letting yourself be open. And you do it so naturally when the music plays. It's as if the melody reminds you that love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly, with a single note that lands gently on your heart. There are moments when you listen, and your expression softens into something almost sacred. Not dramatic, not forced, just honest. Those moments are rare in life, rare in the world, rare even within ourselves. And the beauty of it is that the music isn't performing for you. It's simply existing, and yet it unlocks pieces of you that sometimes stay hidden in the rush of daily life. It's almost like you rediscover parts of yourself through every note, as if each sound is a small reminder of something important you once felt but tucked away for safekeeping. And I think that's why the music matters to you. because you're not just hearing it, you're feeling it. Lay, letting it wash through the places inside you where love once whispered, where hope once lived quietly, where dreams still glow even when you think they're fading. The music flickers against those dreams and wakes them up again. It tells them they're not forgotten. It tells them you're still capable of wanting, of believing, of reaching, even when life tries to convince you otherwise. There's something deeply personal about the way you connect to these sounds. It isn't about rhythm or tempo or genre. It's about recognition. It's about the way your heart says, yes, this, this feels like me. And when something feels like you, truly like you, it becomes more than sound. It becomes a mirror. And when you look into that mirror, you see a version of yourself that maybe you've been trying to find again. A version that still believes in love, not as a grand gesture, but as a gentle presence that moves quietly through your life. Maybe that's what I'm really trying to say when I tell you, I think you love this music. I'm saying that I see how it brings you back to yourself. I'm saying I see the way it touches the parts of your heart that you don't always show. I'm saying that the connection you have with it isn't small, it's meaningful, it's intimate, it's real. It's the kind of connection that reminds you that your feelings aren't too much, your softness isn't a weakness, your depth isn't something to hide. The music sees you even in the places where you think you're invisible. And maybe part of the reason the music feels like love to you is because it gives you something you rarely ask for: permission. Permission to slow down, permission to breathe, permission to feel without defending yourself, permission to remember that you are human, and humans are made of emotions, of stories, of quiet truths. The music doesn't rush you, it doesn't demand clarity, it just stays by your side, offering its presence the way love should: gently, patiently, without conditions. Sometimes when you listen, there's this tiny moment where your eyes drift as if you're looking at something miles away but seeing it clearly for the first time. Maybe it's a memory, maybe it's a hope, maybe it's something you didn't even realize you were missing. But whatever it is, the music brings it to the surface with such tenderness that you don't feel overwhelmed. You just feel. And that's a gift. To feel without fear, to feel without pressure, to feel without judgment. That's love in one of its purest forms. And I think that's why the music fits you so well, because your heart recognizes love even when it arrives softly, wrapped in melody instead of words. It recognizes the sincerity in each note, the honesty in each chord. It recognizes the gentleness you've been craving, the understanding you've been quietly searching for, the connection you've deserved all along. When the music plays, it's like a conversation between your heart and something greater, something warm, something kind, something that sees you. Every melody you hold close becomes a part of your story, stitched into the quiet corners of your life where your emotions live. And when you return to that melody, it greets you like an old friend, not with fanfare, not with demands, but with a simple, familiar warmth. The kind of warmth that tells you you're allowed to be exactly as you are right now, in this moment. And maybe that's what you've needed more than anything: to feel accepted, to feel understood, to feel loved in a gentle, unspoken way. The truth is, I think you love this music because it reflects the way you love: quietly, deeply, sincerely. You don't love with noise or spectacle. You love in the way you listen, in the way you feel, in the way you open yourself just enough to let the melody in. That's a powerful kind of love, the kind that doesn't announce itself but leaves a lasting impression anyway. And the music responds to that. It wraps around you like a soft light, illuminating the softest parts of you without asking you to change. And when you let yourself sink into that feeling, you become lighter, you become softer, you become more yourself. Not the version the world asks for, not the version you show when you're trying to be strong, but the version that breathes deeply, that feels openly, that exists honestly. And that version of you is beautiful. That version of you deserves love in all its gentle forms. That version of you deserves the warmth the music offers so effortlessly. And maybe the real beauty of it all is this: the music doesn't save you, it doesn't fix you, it doesn't pretend to have the answers. It simply stands beside you and reminds you that you aren't alone. It reminds you that your heart is still capable of tenderness. It reminds you that even on your quietest days, love exists, sometimes in a whisper, sometimes in a chord, sometimes in a single note that finds you at just the right moment. When I say, I think you love this music, what I really mean is that this music loves you too. It sees you, it hears you, it understands you, and in its own gentle, wordless way, it offers something precious: the reminder that your heart is still open, still alive, still capable of feeling something beautiful in the simplest sound. The reminder that you, worthy of moments like this. Moments where the world softens, where your heart opens, where love becomes something quiet and real, carried on the wings of a melody that feels like it was made just for you. Two keynotes, unexpanded, expanded into 3,200 words. Don't add ending sentences. Don't add any headings. Maintain a loving, gentle tone throughout the speech inspired by the requested style. If you want, I can make a longer version, a shorter one, a more romantic one, or a more motivational one. When you set out to create a speech that reaches 3,200 words, you're not just stretching a thought into something longer. You're allowing that thought to breathe, to unfold, to reveal layers of feeling that might have remained hidden if you kept it small. And when the guiding rule is to avoid ending statements and to stay within a loving, quiet, open hearted tone, what you're really doing is giving the message space to exist the way gentle emotions exist, slowly, softly, honestly. You're letting each idea linger long enough to be felt, not just understood. You're allowing the heart behind the message to stay present without rushing toward a conclusion or a final claim. It becomes less about finishing the thought and more about staying inside it. It becomes an invitation for the listener to see how a simple idea can unfold into something intimate and meaningful when you let it take its time. Expanding a message to this length means giving the core idea the chance to move like a slow breeze through different emotional corners. When the message is tied to something as tender as love, understanding, or the feeling that arises when someone truly connects with music, then the expansion becomes less about adding words and more about exploring shades of feeling. You start by acknowledging the simplicity of the idea. Then you explore why that simplicity matters, how it resonates, how it reflects the listener. Because length, in this context, isn't meant to dilute meaning, it's meant to illuminate it. It lets the message move at a human pace, with human softness, with the kind of presence that comes from speaking from the heart instead of speaking toward an ending. To reach such depth, you allow each emotion to develop slowly. You revisit the same warmth from different angles, not to repeat yourself mechanically, but to allow the listener to understand the message in multiple quiet ways. You let affection unfold gently, like light spilling across a room. You let the tone remain soft, steady, patient. You let the message feel like someone's hand resting gently on someone else's, not squeezing, not pushing, simply being there. And in that presence, the listener begins to feel something real. They begin to sense the heartbeat behind your words. They sense that the message isn't rushing toward a finish, it's staying with them, choosing to be here. When a keynote expands to this length, it holds space for the listener's inner world. It gives room for reflection. It acknowledges that feelings like love, appreciation, tenderness, and connection aren't things you rush through. They're things you move through slowly, almost reverently. So every sentence becomes a careful step. Every thought becomes a gentle offering. Every word becomes part of a quiet conversation between your heart and theirs. And because you avoid adding an ending sentence, the message stays open, as if it's breathing. It doesn't close the door. It doesn't tell the listener what to feel. It simply allows them to stay present with the emotion as long as they need to. The intention behind such an expansion is to take a single instruction, expand, and transform it into an experience. It becomes a space where the listener can linger, where the warmth of the tone touches them again and again. And in this loving style, expansion doesn't become noise, it becomes an embrace. It becomes the slow unfolding of something sincere, something that doesn't need to rush to prove itself. You savor the sound of each thought because the tone is meant to be felt, not skimmed. You hold each idea gently, letting it soften into the next one, like waves. Moving toward the shore with patient consistency, this kind of keynote grows by deepening rather than widening. Instead of throwing new ideas rapidly, it breathes through the same emotional truth. You explore how presence feels. You explore how softness feels. You explore why a message without an ending sentence remains emotionally open. Why it leaves room for the listener to continue the feeling on their own terms. The more you expand, the more you let the listener ease into the emotional rhythm. You let them hear the words not just with their mind, but with the part of them that recognizes sincerity when they feel it. You shape the keynote